We have to talk about Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles, who started the season with an 8-2 record, but they've lost their last 3 games. Now they're 8-5 on the year. And this feels like 2023 all over again. Now, to add in context here, for the ones that don't remember, the 2023 season was very disappointing for the Philadelphia Eagles. This is a team in 2022. They went to the Super Bowl against Kansas City. They lost that game by 3 points, but they also lost their 2 coordinators. Shane Steichen, the offensive coordinator, very good offensive mind. He left to become the head coach with the Indianapolis Colts. Jonathan Gannon, very good defensive coordinator that season, very good defensive mind. He left to become the head coach with the Arizona Cardinals. So Nick Sirianni has to bring in 2 brand new coordinators. Coach Johnson, offensive coordinator for 2023. Terrible. The defensive coordinator was even worse. It was so bad to where Nick Sirianni had to relieve him of play calling duties. He brings in Matt Patricia, a senior defensive consultant. You bring him in. You let him call defensive plays on the back end of that season. They did advance to the postseason. They went to the playoffs, but it was one and done against the Buccaneers. And that's a huge fall from grace. We're talking about a team here that was just in the Super Bowl the year before against Kansas City. And now you're getting completely destroyed by the Buccaneers in the wild card round. And that was a bad look for Nick Sirianni. So the 2024 season was huge for him. He brings in 2 very good coordinators. Kellen Moore last year, offensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, defensive coordinator, and he finally brought in some outside hires. Usually with the Philadelphia Eagles, they'll promote from within. But you bring in Kellen Moore, former offensive coordinator with the Dallas Cowboys, and the same with the Chargers. But he showed his ability to change his philosophy. They ran the football at a high clip last season. They had the second best rushing offense. The defense was dominant. They got revenge on Kansas City last year in the Super Bowl. Kellen Moore, he leads to become the head coach with the New Orleans Saints. So now you promote from within. Kevin Patullo has been with his coaching staff since 2021. So he doesn't get the excuse, well, he's a new coach. He's not used to the Philadelphia Eagles. He's not used to the culture here. He's used to it. He even has a deep relationship with Nick Sirianni, going back to their days with the Indianapolis Colts. He got to work underneath Kellen Moore last year. There is no reason to why this offense should be this bad. You went from having the second best rushing offense in the NFL last season. Saquon had over 2,000 rushing yards, a historic season. Now they're ranked 22nd in rushing offense. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and act like the passing offense was dominant last year. It wasn't. But Kellen Moore had a better feel for the game. He was able to work the run game with the pass game. He was able to marry the two together. So if a team went out, they stacked the box. They're trying their best to put extra defenders up front. They're trying to blitz Jalen Hurts. He had plays ready. Get the football out quick. Work off a play action. Slide the offensive line to the right. Get Jalen Hurts off the spot. Get those deep passes deep down the field to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So even though they ranked 29th in passing offense last year, they were able to get those big plays deep down the field on a consistent basis. Especially when they need those big plays on third down. You're not seeing that right now. Now, the excuse here with Kevin Patullo and the same with Nick Sirianni, the offensive line has been banged up this season compared to last season. Landon Dickerson has been playing through a knee injury, dating back to training camp. Lane Johnson has missed the last couple of weeks, dealing with a foot injury. Their record all time now, Lane Johnson, is 15-27. I get that. I understand it. But you still have enough talent on this team. And your offense should not be 22nd in rushing. They should not be 22nd in passing. Kellen Moore would let Jalen Hurts call his own number last year, especially in the red zone. He would draw up plays between him and Saquon. Read option plays. You read the edge rusher. If he focuses in on Saquon, you take the football for yourself. If he's worried about you running the football, let Saquon handle it. More RPOs last year. And this is something that Shane Steichen did a few years ago with Jalen Hurts. That's what put Jalen Hurts on the map. Those RPO plays, you're not seeing that right now. And this is dating back to week 1 against the Dallas Cowboys. Even though they won this game, Jalen Hurts had to call his own number in the red zone, not once but twice. The passing concepts were terrible. You have 2 wide receivers in the same position on the field. You never have that as a good coach in this league. anything can happen. You have four people in the same area of the field, 2 receivers. That means that a cornerback and a safety, they're going to be over there in the red zone, or just 2 cornerbacks in general. And the ball pops up, it goes for an interception, you're asking for trouble. But Jalen Hurts had his athleticism. He used his legs in that game. And Saquon had a decent game in week 1 against the Dallas Cowboys. A.J. Brown had 1 catch for 7 yards. It came late in the 4th quarter. You don't feature one of your best players until late in the game. A bunch of shallow crosses, a bunch of curls, a bunch of slants. The same thing that Coach Johnson did a few years ago. It's the same thing that Kevin Patullo is doing currently. And the reason I'm not letting Nick Sirianni off the hook here, as a head coach, you have a heavy input on every single unit on the field. Special teams, offense, and defense. And Nick Sirianni, he's an offensive head coach. He's a former offensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts. He worked underneath Frank Reich. He comes from that coaching tree. I'm not saying that he has to go out there and just take up the play call sheet mid-game and just say, you know what, we're done with this, Kevin Patullo. I don't think that's the way to go here. He should be calling offensive plays because the offense has not been consistent this season. But when you have a heavy input on every single unit, you could tell your coordinator, let's focus in on A.J. Brown this week. Let's focus in on Saquon. Let's focus in on Devontae Smith. Let's use A.J. Brown as a decoy. They did this against the Minnesota Vikings a few weeks ago. Open up the offense. But they didn't do it in week 1 against the Dallas Cowboys, and you can use the excuse, it's week 1. They're working together for the first time. It's his first game as an offensive play caller. Give him some slack here. Let him work things out. Against Kansas City, you won this game 20-17. You won this game based off your defense and your run game here and there. Your run game wasn't as consistent against Kansas City. Jalen Hurts only had 101 passing yards. It came down to that interception with Patrick and Travis Kelce at the goal line. The ball pops off his hands. The defender comes down with it. Very good play by the safety. Against the Los Angeles Rams, you win this game. And the reason why I'm recapping every single game here, it is similar to what happened in 2023. They started off red hot, but they were winning games. Very close games. And it made you scratch your head. It wasn't sustainable for the rest of the season. And the same thing is happening this year. But against the Rams in the first half, after the second quarter, you could have made the case, put the fork in the Philadelphia Eagles, they're done in this game. But that wasn't the case. In the second half, it was more up-tempo. A.J. Brown got more involved. The same with Devontae Smith. Jalen Hurts was unbelievable in the second half. They did a great job. They're going to take away Saquon, so Jalen Hurts is calling his own number with his legs inside and outside the pocket. You have the field goal attempt by the Los Angeles Rams. The defender comes in, he blocks the field goal. He takes it to the house for a touchdown. You win this game. But look at how you won. You never apologize for winning. That's crazy. But it does depend on how you win and on how you lose. Against the Buccaneers, you won this game 31-25. You may say to yourself, hey, they won. What are you complaining about? Jalen Hurts had 0 passing yards in the second half. 0. He was a non-factor in the second half. A lot of that is on Jalen Hurts, and the same with Kevin Patullo. But I put majority of that blame on Jalen Hurts, actually. J.J. McCarthy, who has been a terrible quarterback this year for the Minnesota Vikings, at least he can give you 50 passing yards in the second half. Jalen Hurts, who is making a lot of money right now on that contract, you can't even get 1 passing yard in the second half. So you won this game based off your defense and your run game in certain situations. And Jalen Hurts is better than this. But against the Denver Broncos, this is where everything came to a head. You lost this game 21-17. They were dominating the Denver Broncos early on in this game. But Sean Payton came out. He made adjustments at halftime. Nick Sirianni did. The same with Kevin Patullo. You're up big in this game. Saquon ended the game with just 5 carries. 5 carries for a running back that just had 2,000 rushing yards last season. It doesn't make sense to me. Kellen Moore last year, when they were up in games, he would force feed the football to Saquon. You had extra defenders around the line of scrimmage. He didn't give a damn. He said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to run the football. If it goes for a negative rush, that's okay. Let's work with the clock here. And that's what Nick Sirianni did. And Nick Sirianni was a better head coach last season than he's been this year. He worked very well with Kellen Moore. And you're just not seeing that right now. with Kevin Patullo. And it did come down to a Hail Mary play. A.J. Brown had interference with Devontae Smith, but it's a bang-bang play. This is why you don't want two wide receivers in the same vicinity of the field because of plays like this. And you can write it off as, you know what, first loss of the season, they'll bounce back, they'll learn from it. That wasn't the case. They lost against the New York Giants. Short week's notice, Thursday Night Football. Basically got dominated by Jackson Dart and this defense up front. Jalen Hurts had a bad interception in this game. He was late on an out route. Whenever you're late on an out route, it's a pretty good chance it's going to go for an interception. And if it goes for an interception, it may go for a pick six. In this case, it didn't go for a pick six, but it went for a big game. And Jalen Hurts is a veteran now. He's 27 years old. He should know situations here. When he can throw a football into a tight area, when he can't throw a football into a tight situation. But he was so late on this out route that was destined to happen. But you bounced back against the Minnesota Vikings in this game, had a huge offensive explosion to A.J. Brown, and the same with Devontae Smith. Against the New York Giants, you get revenge in this game. The tush push wins once again. Just a great game plan by Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni against the Vikings in the first half and against the New York Giants. See, I can give them credit. But this is where things take a turn for the worse. Against the Green Bay Packers, you won this game 10-7. Your defense won you this game. Jalen Hurts had a fumble in the red zone early on. You were being very aggressive. You got into the red zone for a reason. But Kevin Patullo shied away. More conservative play calling. Back to shallow crosses. Back to curl routes with A.J. Brown. Back to just throwing the football at the line of scrimmage. To Devontae Smith. Where's the creativity that you had against the New York Giants? That you had against the Minnesota Vikings in the first half? You shied away from that. Yes, you won this game. But once again, your offense is very underwhelming. You don't just shy away because your quarterback has a bad play in the red zone early on. You still continue to put your foot to the gas pedal. And I get play through your defense. But if your defense is helping you out this much, you could take chances on the offensive end. They have done it over the last few weeks. Against the Detroit Lions, another nasty physical game. You won 16-9. But against the Dallas Cowboys, first half, dominant, figuring things out. You look good. In the second half, you're terrible. Xavier Gipson had a fumble on special teams that has nothing to do with Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni, and the same with Kevin Patullo. That was just a bad play with Xavier Gipson and a great play by the special teams unit of the Dallas Cowboys. But he has a huge fumble. Saquon, who I've championed as one of the best running backs in the game over the last 5 years, phenomenal player, and he still is, has a costly fumble late in this game. So those miscues hurt you. They had nothing to do with Jalen Hurts, nothing to do with Nick Sirianni, and the same with Kevin Patullo. That was just a bad play by Saquon. And you lost this game 24-21. And your defense did a very good job in the first half. When all things considered, your defense did a very good job in general with all the turnovers that they had in this game. Coming down to Xavier Gipson and the same with Saquon. But against the Bears, this was a very upsetting game. You allowed 281 rushing yards to the Bears here. So now they're making you play from behind. And this is what we all know about Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a talented quarterback. I still have him being a very good quarterback in this league. I know that he just had 4 interceptions against the Los Angeles Chargers. We'll talk about that in the next couple of minutes here. But we all know this about Jalen Hurts. He is not in the same conversation as a passer with Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. You're not going to give him the football 30 to 35 times in the game as a passer with passing attempts and say, you know what, Jalen, win us this game with your arm. That is not who Jalen Hurts is. Jalen Hurts is a complimentary passer when he works off the run game. You go back a few years ago against the Buffalo Bills. They go into overtime. How did they win that game? With the legs of Jalen Hurts. So if you want him to be Superman, he has to use his legs, has to work off of play action, and create plays outside the pocket. He's a very inconsistent passer with the intermediate routes. He has one of the best deep balls in the NFL. But when you make him play from behind, you run into situations like this, you got dominated. Even though the final score was 24-15, it felt like it was 50-3. They got dominated in the trenches. And Jalen Hurts had a bad interception in this one. He had a fumble in this game as well. That's 2 turnovers, something that Jalen Hurts has done a very good job of at this point in time in the season. before the Chargers and the Bears game. Did a very good job just taking care of the football. Then you go over to the Chargers game here. Last night, Jalen Hurts in this game, 21 of 40. Why on earth does Jalen Hurts have 40 pass attempts against a top passing defense in the NFL? Once again, coaches not understanding the feel for the game, and they're not understanding their players. But he's 21 of 40, 240 passing yards, 0 passing touchdowns, 0 rushing touchdowns. He had a bad fumble in this game, and he had 4 interceptions. Now, not every interception is created equal. One interception, he throws the football to A.J. Brown. The ball pops up off his hands. It goes for an interception. That is not on Jalen Hurts. That is on A.J. Brown. He deserves a lot of blame. A.J. Brown also had 3 drops in this game. That is one of them. It was another situation. Back to the red zone. Beautiful deep ball by Jalen Hurts. He drops the football. It was a tough catch. The defender was right on his back. We've seen A.J. Brown come up with those passes in the past. But he wasn't able to do it this time around. And he gets up, he's smiling, not because he's happy. He's like, okay, that's on me. But this is the same player behind the scenes. He's calling for the football. He wants to be more involved. They've even had meetings with him, with the ownership, to tell him, you know what, let's chill out on that. What are you really frustrated about? So if Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, they want to get each other going, and they want to get this chemistry going up to the next level, they need to be more consistent with each other. I'm not saying that Jalen Hurts has to force A.J. Brown the football every single crucial situation. But A.J. Brown needs to be more involved and he needs to be more zoned in. And when those opportunities come in, he needs to cash in. I still have him being a top wide receiver in this league, but this was a bad game for A.J. Brown last night. But the other plays on Jalen Hurts, you clearly see that your quarterback is not seeing the field. And you're still calling long developing plays deep down the field against his top passing defense. And Jalen Hurts does deserve a lot of blame. He's not the sole reason why they lost last night against the Chargers in the second and overtime, but he deserves a lot of blame. Jalen Hurts, this play right here, this screenshot that you're looking at, he throws an interception that seals the game in overtime. You have a corner route right here with Jahan Dotson, but right underneath, you have Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert is the primary read, not Jahan Dotson. You go to the primary read in Dallas Goedert. Even though it may only go for 3 to 4 yards, you still have more plays to work with. This is a costly interception late in the game. You hate red zone turnovers. But this is what Jalen Hurts has done now in back-to-back weeks. He's had 7 turnovers in the last 2 games. Before the 2-week stretch here, he had 7 turnovers in 26 games. So this is uncharacteristic for Jalen Hurts. But if you just go to Dallas Goedert right here, maybe it goes for an incompletion. You still have extra downs to work with. But instead, that's the ball game. It's not the ideal situation, and it's not a good look for your franchise quarterback. I'm not saying bench Jalen Hurts, but he has now become a problem with the Philadelphia Eagles, with Nick Sirianni, and the same with Kevin Patullo. And I said this 3 weeks ago, Kevin Patullo should be relieved of play calling duties and Nick Sirianni should be calling offensive plays. And I got a couple people in the comment section, they're saying, you don't know what you're talking about. They were laughing at it. The offense looks this bad with Kevin Patullo calling plays. It can't look worse with Nick Sirianni. And Nick Sirianni said that he's had a huge input with the offense over the last 2 weeks. They've gotten A.J. Brown more involved. And within those moments, the offense has looked better. It has looked smoother. The run game against the Chargers, it looked better. Saquon had a big play that went for 52 yards. It was a rushing touchdown. It was a fake tush push. A lot of reports come out that that was a play call with Nick Sirianni, that he wanted to see that against the Chargers, and it worked out. And Kevin Patullo, he called the play. Great situation, in my opinion. You should have stuck with the run game last night against the Chargers. But those turnovers, they lost you the game. Far as the defense here, you are still good enough to get to the Super Bowl with this defense. It's not a great defense. I'm not saying that they're top 5, but they look good against the Detroit Lions. They look good against the Green Bay Packers. This defense is keeping you in games. The trade to bring in Jalen Phillips was phenomenal by the front office. He has been a very good player. And if he leaves in free agency, you get a 3rd-round pick back. And you trade the 3rd-round pick to bring him in. And I expect that he will be with the Philadelphia Eagles long term. He's a special football player in this system, in this front seven. Zach Bond is still a monster. Your secondary has had some bad plays this year. But you still have Cooper DeJean, very good player, and the same with Quinyon Mitchell. The Eagles can turn things around. They have the talent to do so. I just don't trust the offensive coaching with Kevin Patullo. But losing the last 3 games, I mean this when I say this, they deserve to lose. Your quarterback has those costly turnovers. You deserve to lose that game. Against the Chicago Bears, you couldn't stop the run. You deserve to lose that game. Against the Dallas Cowboys, you had so many miscues in the second half. Bad offensive play calling with Kevin Patullo. You deserve to lose that game with those turnovers. So this is a situation. Jalen Hurts needs to be better. The same with A.J. Brown. Saquon, those fumbles against the Dallas Cowboys mixed in with Xavier Gibson, that'd be better as well. Even though Saquon, when you give him the opportunity in the open space, he has still been a very good player this season. But it comes down to the coaches, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. If they can't figure things out, there's going to be a real conversation about Nick Sirianni this offseason. I don't see them firing Nick Sirianni, but he will be on the hot seat once again. When I look at their remaining schedule, there's a good chance that they will win out. Will they make a deep playoff run? As it stands right now in the NFC, when you go against teams like the Packers, who you did beat a couple weeks ago, but the Packers are now a different team. That'll be a very close matchup. You face the Detroit Lions. They match up well with Detroit on the defensive end, but can their offense do enough in the postseason? And against Seattle Seahawks, that is the one that I'm worried about with the Philadelphia Eagles. But you make it to the postseason, you win your division, you will host that playoff game in Philadelphia. But at the same time, we just saw them lose against the Chicago Bears in Philadelphia. Black Friday game. I don't see them making a deep postseason run this year unless Kevin Patullo can be better, and the same with Jalen Hurts. They have bounced back from adversity before, but this time it feels different and it feels like 2023. The only difference is this: your defense is significantly better this season compared to 2023. But let me know in the comment section below, can the Philadelphia Eagles turn things around? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless.